having a goal or an objective in life, or having an overarching Everest in life, where my overarching Everest was climbing the Everest, or my next overarching Everest is, hey, I want to be that guy who stands on top of Everest with striated glutes, right? Having that goal, that passion, that gives you, like, every morning I wake up with a sense of purpose that I want to kill today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Circee Health Pod. We are very excited today as we have our very first celebrity guest. So I will turn it over to Ajoy to introduce him and, kind of tell a little bit about why we're so excited to have him
Yeah,
here today.
yeah. So the celebrity guest that we have really is a person that has a choke of. I mean, we were having a hard time narrowing down how many things we can talk about this gentleman. I mean, he is one. He's made to the Mount Everest multiple times. He was featured in National Geographic, Space.com, Hindustan Times. I mean, all kinds of magazines and German magazines and stuff like that. Uh, he is the only person to have tested and developed vegan gear to take to mountains and stuff like that, because animal stuff is used all the time those places. And all the despite all this brawn and athleticism, he's actually a very brainy guy. He's actually a computer science engineer from USC. USC is one of the leading universities in California. If people don't know about it, he's a bodybuilder and a photographer. So photographer part really got my attention because I kind of delve into that a little bit, if you know me. um, and all this he does not in spite of, but because of the fact that he's vegan. So without further ado, let me present to you Kuntal Joisher. Kuntal.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Really happy to be here and really happy to be chatting with you. And really thank you for a very kind introduction. So, just a little bit about myself. I am a vegan mountaineer, and a nutrition and a fitness coach and a bodybuilder. Been a vegan since the last 20 years, and so yeah, happy to be here and happy to get started with and have a good conversation with you folks.
Great, great. So do you want to take on some
Yeah, let's
questions?
let's jump into our questions because we're excited to hear your answers. So, I'm sure, have had this question multiple times, but we'll just for our audience purposes. How do you define veganism? So everyone defines it differently, but how does it work for your lifestyle and for your clients and patients' lifestyles?
I am going to share it from my perspective, from veganism. For me, veganism is all about minimizing the exploitation, the cruelty, the harm towards animals, because I truly believe that animals are emotional and sentient beings. They have families, they feel pain, they love each other, they just want to exist on this planet as much as we do. And I truly believe they are here to share the planet with us. It's not like they were put here on the planet for us to use, abuse, and consume and exploit and do those kind of things. So, that said, I do understand the practical sometimes limitations around this piece. So my veganism is more around progress rather than perfection. For example, recently I did a Q&A on my Instagram, and someone reached out to me saying that, hey, for this specific reason, your climb is not vegan. Okay, great. The building that I'm living in probably had some animal used during its construction. Or, for example, the wheat that I am eating has animals plowing the fields. Or, for example, the synthetic suit that I am wearing, while synthetic suit means the suit's base material is plastic, if you could literally argue that plastic is animals from gazillion years ago, right? Because that is what plastic is at the end of the day. So people will always bring up something or the other and say that you are not vegan, and I really don't care. To me, my veganism is about progress, and to me, my veganism is about standing up for the animals as much as I can. uh, And my hope is that in this lifetime to live in a world where animals are no longer being consumed for food, people are not wearing animals on their bodies, people are not using animals for plowing the fields, or people are not using animals in any which way. So I would wish to live in a world like that, but I know that we don't, and probably it will not happen in this lifetime, unfortunately. But that is what I strive towards, and that is what my veganism is about. It is just basically about standing up for animals. Now, when it comes to my clients, let's say I'm talking about my clients around fitness coaching, around climbing mountains, or just people who are there to lose some body fat, build some muscle, or any of those things. uh, I'm going to be very honest here. There are a lot of people who come to me saying that they are not vegans, and I'm very upfront. I tell them that I am a vegan coach, that I have no expertise in creating a non-vegan diet for them. So they need to be open to trying out plant-based foods, plant-based proteins, and plant-based nutrition if they want to work with me and if they want to work under me. While I cannot control what they are putting in their mouths or what they are doing in terms of their eating choices, when they are not like I'm not like micromanaging their life and knowing what they are doing at every instance. So they can do what they want. But from my guidelines perspective, I never, like, all my plans are vegan plans. They can say that, oh, he's giving us 150 grams of protein to eat in a day. I'm going to figure out that I'm going to get that protein from eggs, or I'm going to get that protein from meat. If they are doing that, that's something not under my control. But I am teaching them, and I am telling them, and I'm inspiring them, I'm impressing upon them that they can do it all through plant based nutrition, and that is very possible, and that they would not lose any performance, and none of those things would happen. So that is my veganism from my client's angle, or from, frankly speaking, from anyone's angle. I'm not going to take a moral high ground and tell people that, hey, you have to be a vegan. My thought process around vegan activism is that I'm going to be the best role model I can be. I'll go climb mountains, I'll go do my bodybuilding, I'll share information around vegan nutrition and vegan fitness. And if someone has a question, they want any help, they want any support, I am there to do that. But I'm not going to force anyone that go vegan. So that's my mindset. Uh, and this is how it has, it's just I have something that I've evolved to in the last 20 years. And am I saying this is where I will end up? I don't know. I don't know what the future holds and where the next evolution for me is and what I'm going to do next. I don't know. I'm just taking it as it goes.
So I guess when they see you lead by example, that's when there's going to be impact in their mind. I think. I mean, I'm sure you probably noticed it when they see, oh, I'm huffing and puffing, maybe because I had, protein out of from, what is it, whey protein or something like that. And Kuntal, on the other hand, is just fine. Maybe there's something else that's going on. Maybe I should stick to what he's saying. So I think tell me whether this sounds rings true to you in terms of your clients.
No, no, I do agree with you. I think there's a lot of preconceived notions that people have, that, hey, I cannot, like, if I eat plants I will not be able to build fitness, or I'll be struggling on the mountains, or there's this
Yeah.
kind of general preconceived notions even around fitness world, that you need to eat meat to kind of take care of your
Hmm.
protein requirements, or you need to eat
Yeah. Yeah.
animal products to take care of your micronutrition requirements. And so there are these preconceived notions. Like,
Yeah.
I remember going signing up for
Yeah.
a gym way back in October of 2012. I knew that I was about 2 hours, 2 years
Mm,
away from climbing Everest, and that I needed to get in the best shape of my life. So I remember this.
mm,
I took a
mm.
personal trainer, and for the first 15 days, he would repeatedly tell me, "Kuntal, eat chicken. Kuntal, eat eggs. Kuntal, eat whey
Yeah.
protein."
Yes,
And
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
it, for whatever reason,
Yes.
he
yeah,
kept seeing that maybe I'm not improving in my things in the gym, or I don't know why he kept kind of
Yeah.
forcing me to do that.
Mm.
But after 15 days, it was enough for me. I never went back to that gym ever again. I went and climbed Everest twice after that and did it
Yeah.
all on my
Yeah.
own. So I quickly realized that none
Yeah.
of those
Yeah.
things were really
Yeah. Yeah.
required. But you can kind of imagine the issue that
Hmm.
so many newbies would be facing when they're taking up fitness. That all they would be hearing is chicken cow,
Yeah,
eggs cow, doodh pio,
Yeah.
and
that's right.
that would be
That's
such
right.
a kind of a confusing
That's right.
thing. Then seeing someone like me or so
Yeah.
many vegan athletes across the world saying that you don't need to eat animals or you don't need to consume animal
Hmm.
products. So
Yeah.
I do think when you, okay, sure, I'm saying vegan bano, but if I'm also walking the talk, I am also leading as an example, that makes a drastic
Yeah.
difference,
Yes.
because
Yes.
then
Yes.
suddenly
Exactly.
instead of me just preaching, it also becomes like, hey Kuntal, how are you doing it? There are more pointed questions. Kuntal, how can we take care of our protein needs? Or
That's
Kuntal, this
right.
is the struggle I am facing in my practical
Uh-huh.
life. How can I address these practical struggles that I am kind of
Mm-hmm.
running into? Like, for example, a lot of times the questions I get is, vegan protein tends to be expensive, or people have this notion that vegan protein tends to be
Mm.
expensive. So how can, Kuntal, I still get my protein needs met? Or just generally those kind of questions, instead of just,
Mm-hmm.
stupid
Yeah.
things like, what if I put you on a deserted island and you are just sitting there with a chicken? And I'm like, okay, that's like a great question, great, things
Yeah.
to debate on. We have like no interest in talking about
Yeah.
those things. Like, if you have something like serious
Yeah.
to talk about, let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Concrete.
So yeah, totally
Yeah.
agree with you. I think
Yeah.
it's more
Yeah.
about leading by example and inspiring people to ask the right questions, and then we
Yeah.
being there to support them through their journeys.
Yeah, yeah. I think it makes a big difference coming from you because, you know, with I can tell you one thing. With us, whenever we say that, look, we are vegan and all our diseases that we were going towards are have disappeared. Our 75 or 98-year-old patient have nothing. That means nothing to them because they
There's
say,
nothing.
oh, these
There's
are
nothing
exceptions, or
concrete.
huh?
There's nothing concrete for them to
Nothing
say.
concrete, or these are all medical people, they're talking bullshit, maybe they are just exceptions. But when you say it and you are actually showing it, demonstrating it, by I mean, how much more can you do by than climb Mount Everest? I mean, this it's a huge, like a leap from an ordinary people to being able to do that. So I think that must be making a huge difference, and I really think that there should be more people like you coming out and saying, look, I'm completely plant based, and look, I have absolutely no diseases, nothing. I mean, I can jump faster, or jump higher, and do and climb higher or whatever. So I mean, I think that's commendable, really commendable. Now, do you want to ask him some questions about the food part, because I know you're very interested in
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, we were curious. Was there, I guess I was curious, did you have a particular event or trigger or some kind of, like, why did you decide to become vegan? What made you move in that direction?
Right. So, having born and brought up in a vegetarian family, I never ate meat or even eggs for that matter. I live in Ghatkopar East, and Ghatkopar East is so segregated that if you actually cook meat, you would not even be given a apartment complex. You would not even be able to rent anything
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this
yeah,
this
yeah.
area. So I
We
live
know.
in that kind of a. So this is where I've kind of been born and brought up, and I remember kind of discussing with my parents about, hey, why don't we eat meat? And they would always point out to things like, look, animals have families, and if we don't eat other human families, why would we eat animal families? And we don't separate
Yeah,
them and those kind of things. So great, we don't eat meat, we don't eat eggs, all makes sense. But I still continue drinking milk or wearing a
Right.
leather belt, not knowing what goes behind leather or wool
yeah,
or silk or feather jackets or any
Yes.
of those things. Really never questioned, right? These are all products available on a
mm-hmm.
shelf in a supermarket very easily. So had first 22 years of my life, was a vegetarian. Really never questioned why I was a vegetarian, other than a couple of times. Went to the United States to do my masters. There I was living with a couple of roommates, and one of them was a ethical vegetarian. And I remember going to grocery shopping together and buying a Snickers bar. Or now living alone, I would also get ice creams with eggs in them, or cakes and pastries with eggs in them, because I always wanted to eat them. Or even buying the leather jacket or woolen sweater and all the
Mm,
fancy stuff. I was now earning on my own, and I had the independence and everything. So
yeah,
one of the days he asked me the question, why
Yeah.
are you doing this? Aren't you supposed to be a vegetarian? And I'm like, but what's the problem? This is just a leather belt available in a store. Or
mm,
this is just a Snickers bar. And he said, but it has eggs in it. And my point was, but I can't see the eggs.
That's true.
So what's the problem? So I think a lot of this was about my apathy, my ignorance, my convenience, my taste,
Mm-hmm.
and so much about these rather than thinking that there is an animal life, a sentient animal life that is being taken for all of this
Mm-hmm.
to come to
Yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
I never made that connection until that guy
Yeah.
started sharing with me a lot of videos
Mm-hmm.
of cruelty in the dairy and the leather industry. Once I started seeing these videos, this was
Yeah.
late
Yeah.
2002, I quickly connected the dots that there's really no difference between a piece
Mm.
of meat, a glass of milk, a block of cheese, a leather belt, a woolen sweater,
That's right.
any of those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
everything came from an abused, exploited, and a slaughtered animal. And that if I'm not eating meat, why am I doing these
Mm-hmm.
other
Yeah.
things? So I kind of had to
Mm-hmm.
reconcile my dilemma of, hey, in my mind, I think I'm a compassionate person or I'm compassionate towards animals, but my actions really don't kind of, go with my words. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
reconcile that dilemma. And there were two ways of doing it. Either I could have said that, hey, ignorance is bliss, life is good, let's just move on. This is great information to
Mm-hmm.
have. I'm not going to
Yeah.
do anything about it.
Yeah.
Or I could have taken a stand for the animals and I could
Mm-hmm.
have gone further and become a vegan or done something about it. And so I decided that I'm going to take a stand for the animals. I did my research
Mm-hmm.
and I quickly realized that the bare minimum I can do is change what is on my plate, what is on my body, and the products, everyday products that I use. May it be my toothpaste, could it be my shampoo,
Yeah.
could it be my anything. Those three things were 100% under my control, and I can definitely change that. And I decided that I was going to be a vegan. So it's
Yeah.
been 20 years that I've been a vegan. And as I said, that solely my veganism is
Nice.
for animals, while there are other benefits around it of making tangible impact around reversing the climate crisis that we have. Again, there needs to be a massive scale that needs to happen.
Yeah.
It's not like as more and more and more
Yeah.
people make
Yeah.
conscious
Yeah.
choices, we'll have an impact around that. Or even kind of taking care of our own health by focusing on eating more plants, which has been repeatedly shown to be
Mm-hmm.
very protective against
Yeah.
Yes.
slew of diseases and slew of conditions and just around your
Mm-hmm.
longevity or quality of life. So I kind of
Yeah.
think it's a win-win for everyone, right? Win for the animals, win for the planet,
Yeah. Yeah.
and win for us. So in my mind, this is why I am a vegan. Over the period of years, I have found out that it's good for the planet and it's good for our health too. So it's such a win-win for everyone. So why not, like, why not do it, right? Like it's a no-brainer, like in today's day and age.
So, I mean, one of the things that, especially in India, how do you find acceptance of not eating dairy? I mean, people always, I mean, they say, yeah, I can be vegetarian. And a lot of our patients come to us and say, we have diabetes or heart disease or something, but I'm a vegetarian. Why do I have this issue? Do you find it harder for people to like accept the fact that dairy is also not good? And how do you
Including paneer.
including, yeah, that's where I was going with
Yeah.
paneer and stuff like that. People like love this stuff, and how do you kind of like cajole them out of it?
That is a good point. Now, so first of all, I'm going to talk about acceptance itself. Look, when I went vegan, it was very tricky because my family, while we barely ate any paneer, my family was very big on ghee, and my family was very big on like butter and the curd and the buttermilk and a lot of those things. And so it was very tricky for them to accept that suddenly I'm not going to be eating all of those things. And I was living in the US and I would only come back to India for a month, and they all wanted to invite me for dinners and lunches and all those things. And they would want to make a pav bhaji, and pav bhaji is like laden with butter, or they wanted to make me some special sweet or something which was laden with ghee, and I would always refuse a lot of those things. I think in my case, the strategy or the mindset I used is, I really never forced any of them to be a vegan. I just told them that if you can make vegan food for me, that would be great, and this is how you can make that food for me. Like I would tell them that make the pav bhaji in oil for me, or don't just make any sweets for me. It is less work for you. Why are you why do you want to do more work, right? So I would always tell these things, but at the same time also kind of realize that sometimes they would still feed me non-vegan food. Like I would go to their places and I would triple check, quadruple check that hey, is this vegan? Have you put this? Have you put this? And they would say, yeah, yeah, no, 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 we have not put any ghee butter. And then I would taste it and I would know that no, this is not vegan. And I would just reluctantly now. Am I saying they're lying? I don't know for sure. But in my mind, having been vegan for so long, I kind of knew that it was not vegan, but I would just eat it. And I think they realized over a period of time that I was not the one trying to change them, but they were the ones who were trying to change me. And that I was more accepting of them and they were less accepting of who I was. And they saw slow and steadily that is what was happening. On the other hand, they also saw my journey as a mountaineer and how I was able to achieve these incredible feats while staying completely vegan. And so, over a period of time, I started seeing a drastic change in my family, in my friends, in the sense that every time now I go for dinner, they would upfront call me and ask me, Kuntal, what can we make for you? How can we accommodate you? I have found this really cool vegan cookie for you. I have really found this cool vegan thing for you. I got this vegan cheese for you. I found this restaurant where we can order some vegan food for you. So they are now so much more accepting of who I am. And I think this happened because they realized that I was not trying to change them, they were trying to change me. And so am I saying that I'm going to sit here and accept someone's non-veganism? No, there is a victim involved. There are billions of animals being slaughtered every day. So is it a personal choice? No, veganism is not a personal choice. It is never a personal choice if there is a massive victimhood involved in here, right? Which is billions of animals being slaughtered every year, not in one shot. Every year, these sentient beings are being slaughtered. But at the same time, uh, i unfortunately, I can't control what people put in their mouths or what people's lifestyle choices are. So I do think I respect their choices from a point of view that it is their choice at the end of the day. And I was accepting of that choices, but over a period of time, they have started accepting my choices as well. That I want to be a vegan and that they would accept my choice. And I think that's something that has happened over a period of years. So I didn't force it. Um I think India is definitely a diabetes capital of the world. India is also a hypertension capital of the world, and India is now becoming a capital of all the lifestyle diseases that can unfortunately afflict the planet. I think significant amount of planet is also going towards that. Uh, I do think a big problem around that is overconsumption of calories, overconsumption of significant amount of dense energy, and I do think people can benefit significantly from eating more plant food, significantly from eating more fibrous foods, because these would keep them full a lot longer. These would provide them significant amounts of nutrition, which they are not getting from a lot of those foods. So I do think there are a lot of benefits from shifting towards primarily a plant-based diet, eating more plant foods, eating more nutritious, more whole plant foods, lesser processed stuff. Am I standing here and saying that you need to stop eating processed foods? You need to stop doing any of those things? No. Again, it can be a very transition journey, right? Where you slowly start adding more plant foods, slowly start adding more uh, whole foods and start gravitating towards that, you'd start seeing definitely a lot of benefits from that lifestyle. Add that with a lot of exercise, lot of movement, getting enough sleep every day, hydrating yourself well every day, those kind of things, and there's a lot of benefits to be seen. So I do think we need to kind of inspire our clients, inspire our well-wishers, inspire our family members, inspire our friends towards this kind of mindset. And that's kind of my thought process, that let's just get them step by step towards eating more plants and towards eating more smartly.
Yeah, I think there is more awareness of what veganism is, what plant-based foods is, and so on. There, even in the last 2 years, I think we've noticed, even despite the COVID pandemic in India, I'm talking about, there has been a little bit more movement towards the better, so I think you're absolutely on the right track. We commend you for that. Absolutely commend you. Now, a question that I had, now shifting gears a little bit, any specific medical, or I mean, if you feel free to edit it whichever way you want it. Any specific medical issues that you felt that you either had or have disappeared, or you think you would have gotten by now, but they never came to you because of your lifestyle?
Uh, I think when I was young, back when I was 22 and when I went vegan, I was about 110 kilos. So, of course, I was way overweight. I was, I think, about 35 kgs over my optimum BMI. And a lot of this was primarily fat weight rather than having a good balance of both muscle and fat, which is also, while I was just 22, and at 22 you just feel that you are invincible, that nothing's going to ever happen to you. And at 22 I really felt like I was on top of the world all the time, in spite of making really terrible choices on my plate and in terms of my exercise. But as I shifted to veganism, one of the unfortunate things around my initial portion of veganism was that I really was a junk food vegan. So I'm like going to be honest here. I continued consuming the excess calories, continued consuming significant amounts of deep fried processed food, non nutritious food. I'm not going to label something healthy or unhealthy, because then that leads people to kind of making like, oh, this is healthy, I'm going to eat unlimited amounts of it. Oh, this is unhealthy, I'm not going to eat it. Rather than learning how to eat a more balanced diet or a more reasonable diet. So I was someone who just made terrible choices constantly, and in spite of making all these terrible choices, I still ended up losing like 20 kilos of body weight. In spite of eating all this junk food, I still ended up losing fair amount of weight. Uh, and in spite of making these terrible choices, I still had a massive bump in my energy. I had a massive bump in just overall quality of my life. Like I remember at 22, even though I was like, I felt great and everything, I would still realize that just mild walking would have me breathless. Here's a 22-year-old guy who's getting breathless by mild walking. That is not the kind of life you want to be really living. So a lot of those things kind of improved. I started cycling, I started taking care of myself, and I started doing a lot, like, while I was a junk food vegan, I was still consuming reasonable amount of vegetables. That was a big change that happened in my life, where I started consuming more veggies. I started focusing more on legumes, and this was just accidentally. I didn't have a clue about nutrition, but just because there was not like, hey, there's no milk, there's no butter, no cheese, none of the things are accessible to me. So what can I really eat instead of that? Lot of salads, lot of dals, a lot of those things started coming into my life. And so I would still eat like that burger, that sandwich, that vegan, fake burger or the fake sandwiches, and I would still continue eating French fries and those kind of things. I started eating many, many, many plant foods along with it, which is why I felt that my health didn't deteriorate, and I also started losing a lot of body fat, started taking care of myself. And which is something I wanted to share as well, where if people, let's say people are choosing to eat animal products, I do feel that there are studies year after year after year in the last 30, 40 years of the body of evidence that if you combine animal foods with significant chunks of plant foods, minimally processed plant foods, your mortality risk goes down, all your blood markers improve, all your health markers improve. It has been consistently shown. So even if someone chooses to eat animals and they no longer they just don't want to be a vegan, or they don't want to reduce the consumption, I would say to all those people that increase your plant foods intake. Whatever risk you are incurring by eating all that excess animal foods, you will be able to decrease it by increasing your plant foods. Of course, the smarter strategy would be here to just minimize or not eat the animal foods. As I said, good for everyone. But in case you don't want to, including just massive amounts of plant foods would be a big win for you. um, but yeah, so that is how some of my initial years were. There were no diseases or anything. I would just say I was overweight, and I was able to reduce significant chunks of my body fat, and like just get better at that. And then once I decided to climb Everest, I shifted to a much smarter diet. I started planning my diet well. I started designing my diet well, and uh, there was just instant benefits in my recovery times, in my performance in the gym, in my performance on the mountains, and those kind of things. So nothing, no diseases or anything that I reversed using a vegan diet. Just primarily losing a lot of weight. That was one big thing.
But seems like, I mean, you kept everything at bay because of primarily your lifestyle. I mean, that's what we see that in our patients and ourselves. I mean, I think so. At this point, we should end this part, and we'll continue on in the next part. But in the meanwhile, our listeners can go to our website, circeehealth.com/podcast, and browse through other podcasts that might interest them, or on their own app, whatever app they use, Apple Podcast or Spotify or whatever they use, they can certainly search for other topics that we've talked about.
In case you are just so excited for the next one that you can barely contain yourselves and you miss the sound of our voices, they'll always be there for you on circeehealth.com/podcast. Did we mention that?